Well,
Yep.
yeah, thanks for coming on today. I don't do any fancy intro. I realize I suck at intros, so I do the Joe Rogan style where we just jump in, start shooting the shit, and talking
Let's
about.
go.
Well,
Yeah,
there you go.
exactly.
Let's go. So I will do real quick. Thank you guys for coming on the podcast. This is my guest, William Branum, Navy SEAL, entrepreneur, and international speaker. I just met him yesterday through a mutual friend. We hit it off, 30-minute conversation real quick. Thought it would be a great opportunity to have him on the podcast and probably be more and part of the Savage Syndicate in some way because we're very like-minded. We both have the goal of making people hard to kill. I was going around researching on his stuff. He has it on his website. I wrote a book about it. And some people might think, "Oh, you guys have the same message." I don't care who has the same message, as long the message needs to get out there. And so I'm super proud of my man William here for doing the same thing. And welcome to the podcast, my man. I'm happy to have you join us.
Yeah, thanks for having me here for sure. So I think one of the reasons that I started kind of going down this road of hard to kill, um, it had nothing to do with that movie that what's his name made
Steven
Once
Seagal.
Upon a Time. It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with that, but it was a great movie back in the day.
Yeah.
I remember I was doing a podcast and I don't remember the question, and I told a story about I have a tire that I found on the side of the road, and in the SEAL teams we use like tire drags as somewhat of a punishment.
Mhm.
You're running through the kill house and you don't like two to the body, one to the head. If you were like off a little bit, like you didn't hit like the little 1 inch pasty there, then you had to do a tire drag or whatever, or you missed the target completely, whatever it was, shot the hostage, tire drag.
Yeah.
So at some point, I think I had just had shoulder surgery. I think, and I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think I just had shoulder surgery. I picked my kid up from school and I'm driving home and I see like these tires on the side of the road. I'm like, you know what? I've been thinking about a tire. I need to get a tire to drag around the neighborhood. And so I was doing this podcast interview, and I think maybe the guy looked at my social media and saw that I did a fair amount of tire dragging, and he asked like something, and I told the story like my gym used to be right out in my driveway
Mhm.
out front, and then people would see me do all kind of like I'm for sure the oddball here, and so someone saw me like dragging the tire. They're like, "Why are you doing that?" I'm like, "Because I want to be hard to kill. I want to be. I don't want to be an easy target ever. I
Yeah.
want to be someone that you are like. You just see me doing weird shit, and you're like, I'm not messing around with that guy."
Isn't it
So
funny
I
that
think,
things that used to punish us and we're like, "Shit, I don't wanna do that." Now we're like, "I'm 48 and I'm doing the same shit." I'm doing things that
let's go.
I used to regret, like, or not regret, but I used to like, "I don't wanna do that. I don't wanna be forced to do that." And now I'm like, wake up at 5 in the morning, "Ooh, I can't wait to do it."
Yeah, but
Right?
I hate getting up early. Now I'm like, all right, let's go. All right,
Yeah.
like my whole military career,
I couldn't sleep in until
100% of it.
5. I wish I could sleep
Right,
in. I envy my wife and son who could sleep till 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm like,
right.
half my day's over at 10 in the morning, so I wish I could sleep in, but, yeah, it's funny 'cause I don't know where I started saying "Hard to Kill," and then old school people were like, "Oh, yeah, Steven Seagal." I'm like, "Yeah, that's a badass movie." But it's just something that I think more people need to start their motto. I don't care if everybody puts it on a shirt, put it on a hat, do whatever, but just
Yeah,
always be thinking that. I always tell people, you are always being watched, no matter what big brother or conspiracy theorist you're thinking about. As soon as you walk out of that door, you are being watched. And so it would be better for you to start training, start the tire drag, whatever's going to make you hard to kill, do it. And that's what my whole message
yeah,
is. Come hard to kill,
yeah,
whatever. And like we talked about a little bit yesterday, it's not just physical, right? Obviously, that's a huge part of it because you want to be, stronger than your opponent or the attacker, but mentally, emotionally, financially, all these different avenues of ways to be hard to kill. So, yeah, we share the same message, and we'll get a little bit deeper
yeah,
into
100%.
how we get that message out there. But tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you're a Navy SEAL, entrepreneur and speaker. Let's dive a little bit into the Navy SEAL. I think searching around, you jumped in the Navy right out of high school. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I actually joined the Navy in the delayed. I was in the delayed entry program, which is I basically I joined the Navy the summer of the my 11th and 12th grade of high school, between my 11th and 12th grade of high school. So I didn't even know what a Navy SEAL was. There was none of that around when when I was a kid. There was no internet, there was
Yeah.
no books, there was no movies. Or actually, I think maybe the movie Navy SEALs had just come out. I'm not sure, but I wasn't allowed to watch it because my mom would let me watch it.
Was that with
With
Charlie?
Charlie
Yeah.
Sheen, and yeah.
Okay.
But I had not watched it, and I went to this Boy Scout jamboree, and I grew up super poor, very kind of uh, I don't want to say defeatist sort of mindset, but for sure mediocre mindset. Like
Mhm.
we were just poor. Everyone else was rich compared to me. I was on free lunches first through 12th grade. Everything we had was hand me downs. My grandparents made sure that we were good enough.
Mhm.
And my dad was retired Navy. My mom worked as ER tech, X-ray tech. So we didn't have a ton of money. And then that state hospital closed down. So then we had even less money. So, but I was heavily involved in the Boy Scouts. I went to this national jamboree. The Boy Scout Association that I was a part of paid for me to go because they knew I didn't have any money. And I met another kid there, and he was like, "Yeah, when I grow up, I'm going to be a Navy. I want to go to the Naval Academy. I want to fly F-14 Tomcats, like the movie Top Gun, and I want to be a Navy SEAL." I'm like, "That's cool. I want to do all that too. What's a Navy SEAL?" And so I already knew that I wanted to be part of some sort of small elite military organization. I just didn't know what that was. And then he told me who it was. It was it's a SEAL team. So I'm like, okay, check. I'm on board. And I came back from that trip, and the Navy recruiter called me. And I had sworn that I would never join the Navy. I think we had a little bit of this discussion yesterday. Pretty
Mhm.
much everything I say that I will never do is what I end up doing.
Yeah.
But he was like, "Hey, man, have you ever thought about joining the Navy?" And I was like, "Man, I yeah, you know what? I want to go to the Naval Academy. I want to fly F-14 Tomcats, and I want to be a Navy SEAL." He's like, "Awesome. Come on down here and let's have a conversation." So he showed me that really cheesy Navy SEAL recruiting video. And I was like, "Yeah, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. Let's go."
What
So
state were you in? Was it somewhere where there was a naval academy, or where were you at when you were a kid? Where were
I
you
was
growing
in Mississippi.
Okay,
There
okay.
was a naval air station there, but the Naval Academy is in Annapolis, Maryland. It's just a military college.
Mhm.
I didn't really know what I was saying because I'm just whatever dumb kid from Mississippi, country bumpkin.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, I knew I wanted to be some sort of elite military special forces like person,
Mhm.
and I was also like, wow, how hard can it be? It turns out it's pretty hard.
Drag a
um,
couple tires down the way, and I'm good to go,
right?
right?
Yeah. It's easy. Just knock that out real quick, and you're good to go. 20 push-ups, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so I
Charlie
joined the
Sheen made it
Navy.
so easy.
Right, exactly. But I never saw that movie. I never saw any of that till after. Um, so I joined the Navy, and I took the Navy SEAL screening test, and I failed it. I failed the push-ups. I passed the swim. The next you go and you do the swim. You get back in out of the water. You dry off. You put on your dungarees, your long pants, your heavy boots, and a t-shirt. And you come out and you knock out push-ups, pull-ups, and sit-ups, and then you go do a mile and a half run. And I failed the push-ups, and I was like, dude, that sucks. Oh well. I'll just go back and get stronger and come back and do it later. And it's not that many push-ups. It's only like 52 push-ups that you have to do, good push-ups. I
Yeah,
look at those numbers now and I'm like, really? I failed that, but whatever. I wasn't in the right place.
yeah.
Um, and then I went to in the Navy, you were required to go to a specific school so that you can advance in the Navy. And so I went to this school. It was a gunner's mate school. I thought gunner's mate, guns, right? Well, it's not really small arms. It's those big things that float out there in the ocean that have big gun system and missile launchers. It's hydraulics, electronics, pneumatics. So I went to school to learn all of that stuff. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to take this other school for 4 more months and get in better shape and then go to Buds. Well, what I didn't know is because I took that school for 4 months, I owed the Navy 24 months of obligated service to a ship in Yokosuka, Japan. And I
Wow.
was like, dude, not what I want. And
Yeah.
so and then when it came time for me to transfer off the ship, I had passed everything. I did all the medical, all the physical stuff. Everyone's like, gave me the thumbs up, you're good to go, except the guy that's in charge of my career. And he was like, well, you know, that school that you went to for 4 months, well, that made you too critical to the Navy, so I'm not going to let you become a Navy SEAL. You're too critical. I'm like, well, if you don't let me go, you're going to lose me because I'm going to get out. He's like, okay, get out then.
Wow.
And I was like, but if you let me go and I don't make it, you got me back. So let's make a deal. He's like, no deal. So I continue to ask other people. I'm like, hey man, can you help me get there? Can you help me get there? And they're like, unless that guy says you can go, you can't go. And then one day, the chief of naval operations, which is the most senior guy in the Navy, the only people more senior to him is the Secretary of Defense and the President of the United States. Mm-hmm. He came to my ship in Yokosuka, Japan. He didn't go to any other ship. He came to my ship. He had CNO's call and he said, he's like, this is my vision of the Navy. This is my plan, blah, blah, whatever. Does anyone have any questions? So he calls on me and he was like, I said, yes, sir. I joined the Navy to become a Navy SEAL. I think I deserve a chance to go to SEAL training. My detailer won't let me go because he says I'm too critical. What do you think? He turns to my commanding officer and he was like, hey, is he a good guy? He was like, yeah, he was a sailor of the quarter this quarter. You'll be in the first class after your. So he turns back to me. He's like, you'll be in the first class after your PRD, which is planned rotational date. 6 weeks later, I'm off to California to start my time as a
Did
SEAL.
the other guy just have it out for you, or was he just super by the book, or what was his reason for not letting you go?
He didn't care. He didn't care about me. All he cares about is like he has openings. So he was sitting in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
He was basically a bureaucrat at that point because all he knows he has this many people with this qualification. He has this many openings. So he's always just trying to plug holes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And me leaving was not a good thing for him. So he's like, I'm not going to let you go. I'm going to do whatever I need to do. So, and you know, we would call them just flesh peddlers. You know, their job is just to like move bodies into billets.
Yeah.
And so I don't blame him, but I have never had to do that job, and nor will I ever do that job.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was like, absolutely not. You're not going to go. I will not release you. Okay. Well, I'll find a way. I'm going to get there. Don't worry about that.
Did he hold a grudge against you when you finally were able to go?
I don't know. I know when I got hurt in Buds that and they were going to kick me out. They were like, well, this is the second time you've been hurt. Neither one of those times was my fault, but they're like, this is the second time you've been hurt. We're going to kick you out. We recommend kicking you out. And I was like, hold on, let me tell you a story. And I'm like standing there, like crying, tears. I'm like, if you let me go, then I'm like, it took the CNO to get me here, la la la, the whole story. And they were like, So the guy told me to go stand outside, and I stood outside his office watching my class come in. They're all wet and sandy, and all I can think is like, I want to be with those guys right now. As miserable as they look, that makes me happy. Yeah. And the guy, he left for like 4 hours and went to meetings. He came back. He was like, what are you doing here? I said, you told me to stand outside. He's like, okay, go check in over there. You'll be in the first class, in the next class that starts up, heal up and get ready to go. So I was, there was no way I was going to leave Buds without walking through the front door as a graduated student or in a body bag. Either one of those were my only options.
How long were you in Buds before you got injured and had to start over?
I got injured three times. So I was in 3 different classes. So the first one was I broke my ankle, rolled my ankle, and then we were just starting up. Rolled my ankle. So there's 2 weeks of like where they like really prepare you to start first phase. Mm-hmm. Like get the class together, everyone working together, getting ready to become actual Blood students. And it was during one of those sort of beatdown sessions. I just rolled my ankle and I heard it pop, but no big deal. I just kept running. And then the next day we were doing the obstacle course and I was like, I just don't have the power. This was like a Friday. And so I went back out to the obstacle course on Saturday. I'm like trying to jump and like do the things that you need to do. And I just didn't have, like, it didn't hurt. It wasn't swollen, but it turns out there was about an inch chunk of bone from the bottom of my outside, whatever, the tibia, fibula, that was broken off, just floating around in there. And so the docs were like, you probably just need to suck it up, but we're going to send you for x-rays anyway. And so we went and got x-rays, came back, and it was a female EOD PA, a lot of letters there. And she was like, I'm sorry, I said you need to suck it up because your ankle is actually broken. You have like a chunk of bone that's not even connected. So I healed up from that. I was doing great. And then the next class, I was about a week out from Hell Week, and I don't know, something happened with my knee. It just stopped working. Like I could put 0 weight on it, and I would just fall down. That never healed up until during Hell Week of the following class. Like I almost didn't make it to Hell Week because I couldn't run fast enough. I just was gimping along.
Yeah.
Like you could see me coming like this. I passed enough stuff to go to Hell Week, and during Hell Week that injury healed up. And then during Hell Week, because I've been hopping on the one leg like
The other one
for 8 weeks, I got stress fractures in the other leg. So then I got rolled one more time. And then so it took me 13 months to graduate, complete a 6-month block of training.
Wow. Well, I mean, these were questions that I had for you later, but what motivated you? What is your mindset to push through? I mean, besides being stubborn, because I feel like I'm more stubborn than I am in shape most of the time. But what motivated you? What pushed you through 3 bud trainings, which most people don't even pass the first one, but you're pushing yourself, breaking your body down. What's the mentality like to get to that stage?
That was just what I did. There was no like other option. Like this is what I signed up for. This is what I want to do. It's
Yeah,
like you when you're like, getting ready for a fight, like that whole sort of fight camp.
yeah.
Like who works that hard? Like who needs to do that? Well, I do. Well, because I need to like be ready for that fight.
Yeah, it's a good mentality because it's like you're hard to kill, and it's just embedded in your head that you won't quit, you won't stop, you just keep.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you graduate Bud, right? With
Yeah.
fully intact, or were you just broken and just like hobbling
No,
through?
I was pretty good. I was pretty good at that point. But it was yeah, I was pretty good at that point.
Yeah,
I was running
yeah,
fast. I was doing everything really fast.
yeah. I mean, is it sounds like it is Bud's training as hard and brutal as they make it sound, or worse than
It's That's a fine question. I don't know.
that?
It is hard, but it's not clearly it's not unattainable.
Yeah,
I maybe I just went in with like a an ignorant mindset, but I was like, whatever, dude. I didn't come here to quit. I came here to finish.
yeah,
So nothing is it's what do you want to put up with? How much do you want to endure?
yeah.
I mean, we had guys that were just fucking studs. Like everything looked easy. Like they could swim, they could run, they could do the obstacle course. Everything was super easy from my perspective for them. For me, I was struggling the whole time, and I loved it.
Yeah,
But then they would quit. A lot of times they quit because they were told they weren't good enough. Oh, you weren't fast enough. Yeah, but I was the first one across the finish line. You weren't fast enough, or you didn't work as a team, or you weren't loud enough, or whatever the thing is. Like you're guaranteed to fail in buds. I'm used to failure. That's just me.
yeah,
Um, so it was no big deal. Like, but these guys were like collegiate athletes. They were superstars. They were Olympic alternates. They were whatever. And the difference is they would work really hard and they would be rewarded by winning. In
yeah,
buds, you work really hard and you're told that you're not good enough. You're not going to make it. You should quit now. And then guys just accept that and they quit
yeah. I mean, I
rather
I
than just saying, fuck it, dude, let's roll.
I think this was like probably like 30 years ago or something, right? So I think
Yeah.
now a lot of people, like young guys, are watching this and they see there's so much out there, YouTube, all the social media. I think back then there, like you said, there was no books, there was no, it was just like
There's no nothing.
the dream of having, of like that kid that you said that your buddy, I want to be a fighter jet or a pilot and this and this and that. Now, if you like right now, my phone's listening to that, I'm probably going to pick up the phone and there's going to be 15 different advertisements.
Right.
But so that's probably why people went in there. I'm the strongest linebacker at my college in Iowa. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me go to Buds, and then it's the reality kicks in, right? Probably that's. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what I think is probably what happened to a lot of the people back then. Like it just wasn't. They always got kind of the participation trophies. They were studs back home, but then they get in the real world scenarios like that, and it's just like, wow, reality kicks them in the ass. So
The people who had the highest probability of making it was wrestlers
yeah,
because
well,
they know grinding. That's what they know. They know how to grind.
I was gonna say that about jujitsu is like you were saying, it's like you fail all the time. And that's what jujitsu is to me. Like thank you, real quick. I rolled last night. For people who don't know, I have a surgery, and the doc said you're out for 2 to 3 months, and it's been exactly a month. I went in with my arm sling. I held onto my gi like this, and I just worked my back. And I kind of feel bad because I kind of went. I was going hard, and the guys were like, "Dude, you got to bust or an arm," and they were going a little slower. I'm like, "Go harder, go hard, like fucking, let's go." And I just told my wife this morning, I'm like, she goes, "How did it go?" I go, "Well, I rolled with 5 guys, and they were all kind of taking it easy." And I'm like, and I was kind of the dick, like it's trying to get them in arm bars and stuff. And but anyway, thank you for that because I did go roll. We talked yesterday, and
Yeah.
you're like, "Hey, just go in there and work on your back." But yeah, but with jujitsu and wrestlers, like you said, we fail every freaking time we step on that mat, right? And
Yeah.
what do?
Yeah.
We get up, high five, and do it again. And like, there's no quit. You don't. Well, I've seen people do it, but it's not my mentality. If I tap out, I'm not just going to grab my bag and go home. It's like, fuck jujitsu. I'm never going to do that again.
Right.
So that's why I think wrestlers too, like if you're, ever have been in wrestling tournaments and mats, and you're getting the shit kicked out of you daily. I mean,
Yeah.
the losses are compiling so much, and you're like, yeah, it's just another day. I'm going to keep plowing through it. And so I think that's kind of the mentality that you were saying. Those guys get far along, right?
Yeah, 100%. Wrestlers for sure are, because they have wrestling in high school and all that other stuff. It was funny. I remember it was funny the first time I saw a kid with wrestling shoes on. And the only wrestling I knew about, being from Mississippi, was WWF.
Yeah,
That's the only wrestling I knew about.
yeah.
And this kid was going for a run, and I'm like, "Bro, what kind of shoes are those?" He's like, "They're wrestling shoes." And all I'm thinking is Hulk Hogan, Randy Macho Man Savage, Jake the Snake Roberts. Those are the people I'm thinking about. I'm like, "What? What are you That's not wrestling shoes or boots or whatever."
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So you go past buds, and then you 26 years as a Navy
Yeah.
SEAL, right?
Yeah,
Wow.
so it's 23 of my 26 years. So I had, the first year was school. The next 2 years was, that 24 months of obligated service on a ship in Yokosuka, Japan.
Mhm.
And then the rest of the time was all naval special warfare.
What do you think prepared you, or did anything prepare you? Was being a Navy SEAL, did it live up to your expectations, or were you like, "Holy shit, this is tougher than I thought," or "I'm made for this. This is easier than I thought," or what was your perception of it?
I think everyone focuses on buds, or even like Hell Week. Everyone focuses on Hell Week. Hell Week is 5.5 days.
Yeah.
It is hard, but it's not, again, unsurmountable. But it is this like pinnacle piece, and there's actually like sort of like almost like postpartum depression, like post Hell Week depression. You're like, okay, now I did that. Now what? And then you graduate from buds eventually. Like, it doesn't get easier after Hell Week, but they stop. There's actually another event in buds that's harder than Hell Week by far, and I haven't found anyone that will say different. And it's in the second phase of training. It's called pool comp, and it's where you wear twin 80s on your back, this like sort of old school life jacket, life preserver thing around your chest, and like a Jacques Cousteau double hose regulator. So you
Mhm.
have an inhalation hose and an exhalation hose, and it's like second or third week. Some guys fail out of just because of academics doing. They've made it through Hell Week. They've made it into second phase, and they fail the academics of like dive science and dive physics and dive medicine, stuff like that. Where you're like, what?
I didn't
And
even
they
think of
go away,
that. To me, it's all
right?
about physical, and I'm like, shit. There's actually tests that you got to take mentally.
Yes. Yeah. It was like a lot of math, and yeah. So we lost guys there. And then we also lost guys in this thing called pool comp, where it's about 15, 20 minutes. You crawl along the bottom of the pool, and you're like, instructors come down, and it's like underwater jujitsu, only you're not allowed to fight back. And they
Yeah.
take your hoses, they like punch you in the stomach, rip your mask off, fins, like just like toss you around, tie your hoses in knots, and then your job is to fix it. And not just fix it any old way. You have to follow these exact procedures. Like if you have a exhalation hose problem, you're not allowed to take your tanks off. And I failed this the first time I did it because I knew it was an exhalation hose problem. I just couldn't reach the hose to fix it. And so I went outside of the standard to fix it. And they're like, nope, you failed. I'm like, I know, I just couldn't reach it.
So they
And
didn't.
so the next time.
like as long as you pass, they don't want you to pass your way, right? Improvise and solve a problem. They want you to go step one, step two, step three.
Right. So it's follow the procedure in the most stressful scenario possible. You
Yeah.
have no air. You can't breathe. There's no whatever. And so the problems get progressively harder, and eventually it's they tie your hose in such a knot. They call it the whammy knot, and then you have to go through the procedures of trying to untie it. And then at the end, and I actually untied the whammy knot like 3 times, and they finally said you can pass. But what the whammy knot is like a knot where you're not supposed to be able to get it undone. And then you ask permission to go to the surface. You're on a breath hold underwater, um, compressed air breath hold, and that's important. So
What's
you're
the
like,
difference? What is the compressed air?
so when you take a breath from the surface and then you dive down, it's it's different air. So if you take a breath from compressed air when you're 10 feet underwater, and if you were to hold your breath and come to the surface, this is like Boyle's law, that air as it comes up in closer to the surface from it starts to expand. And so that same thing happens inside your lungs. So if you have a lung full of air that you took at 10 feet down and you hold it in your lungs are going to explode. It's going to rip your lungs open.
It's like when you catch
So
a fish
that's,
deep or deep levels or whatever, and you come up and it's
yeah,
inside your mouth. Yeah.
yeah,
Oof.
exactly. That's the same thing that happens inside of you, just at a much more like kind of microscopic level. And so you have to ask permission to come to the surface. Like, hey man, yeah, you give them the thumbs up. You're already out of air. Like you already can't, you're like, oh, I'm like, he's still tying knots. And I'm like, and so
Is there
I
like a
work on it.
backup? Like how if you're like, oh shit, right? Is there like a safety word or like you're underwater, but is there like a motion you do or give them the old
You
FU?
can probably like I probably I don't remember.
It
It
wasn't
was not an option. It wasn't an option for me. Yeah.
I like
And
it.
so like, and then when you like can't do it, you ask permission to go to the surface, and then he gives you permission. And then you like go through all the other procedures, take your weight belt off, you do this other stuff, and then he comes down to get you, and then you kiss the bottom of the pool, and you open your mouth and you blow all of your air out before you leave the bottom. And then on the way up, he's better like punching you in the gut to make sure that you're not holding any air in. And you get to the surface, you say, I feel fine, and all this other stuff, and then you pass. But yeah, that was every single SEAL I know will tell you that pool comp was harder than Hell Week.
Yeah.
Hell Week was just like, let's go. It's just another day. It just doesn't end.
Yeah. And you guys aren't getting any sleep either, right? You just continuously pushing through it.
Yeah, during Hell Week, yeah. I think we got about 2.5 hours of sleep Wednesday night into Thursday morning. And they have these tents set up on the beach and like go in there and like lay down, but do not go to sleep. That's not possible. You've been going for like 4 days now.
Do
And then
Go
what's
ahead.
that?
Do they do that during the water test too? Because I know sometimes if you get disoriented, I mean, probably not in a well-lit pool, but you don't know which way is up. Like you surf, you've been in the water. Sometimes you
Yeah.
don't know which way is up. But if you're sleep deprived, are you totally just out of it going, oh shit, and like doing all this under stressful times and situation and everything?
No, that's actually that's a whole that's like the second phase. That's like a month after Hell Week.
Okay.
Month and a half even. And we lose guys to that event right there. I think you have 3 opportunities to take it. And if you fail it, then you roll back to the next class that just graduated Hell Week, join them, and then you wait for them to start second phase. And if you fail it again with the next class, then you're out.
Wow. And so a lot more people failed the water part than the first part?
Yeah. Well, you still lose people there. And
Yeah.
then maybe it's like some sort of safety violation. You can't follow procedures. It's all about, following the procedures under stressful conditions.
If you fail or get kicked out at any part of it, do you have to wait or are you done? You can't do it again, or do you have to wait a certain amount of time before you redo it?
I was able to redo the test like the same day. And
Okay.
then there were some people who like it was like on a Friday. So then
Okay.
they have to wait the whole weekend to be
Uh,
retested on Monday.
Okay, so it's not like you failed this, now you gotta go back out and start
Right.
and, like, take 6
But if
months
you
off.
failed 3 times in a row, you got to go back to the beginning of second phase, waiting for the next class to catch up to you, and then you start over again. And if you fail that second time, that second class, then you're out.
Wow,
And if you come back, you have to start the whole thing all over from the very beginning.
wow. I feel like I could do this all day, and I wanna respect your time. Tell us about, the 5 SEAL secrets. I know that's something that you put together, so tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so 5 SEAL secrets. It's when I retired from the military, I felt like I had lost everything. I felt like that Avengers movie where Thanos like snapped his fingers and half the world's population goes away. I had a purpose, I had a mission, and I had a team my entire adult life. And then one day it was all gone. The coping mechanism I was using was alcohol. I would pretty much drink myself to sleep at night to turn down this noise in my head. Um, and so I started using CBD. It was a modality that helped turn down the noise in my head, that helped. I didn't realize it at the time, but I started drinking less alcohol, started having more positive self talk. And I was like, okay, well, CBD was something that helped me get where I am now. So I started a company called Naked Warrior Recovery, really focusing on recovery of veterans, athletes, first responders, things like that. Then, soccer moms and dads and everyone else, but because we all have stress and anxiety and weird baggage that we carry around. And one of the things that I said that I needed to do is I had to like take my armor off that I've been wearing around my entire life, this ego that I was wearing around, and become vulnerable. I had to get naked in order to find the healing that I actually needed. I had to be brave enough to do that. And once I was brave enough to do that, I started, I sort of started using this slogan of like, you have to get naked, like, and really about becoming vulnerable so you can ask for the help that you need. And then one of my business coaches says, well, everyone in this group should have a signature presentation. And basically what that is it's something that you can talk about, something that you're an expert in, and then it can be like your TED talk, like your 10-minute talk, or it can be like you can scale it to do like for like a 90-minute talk. And so
Mhm.
I was like, what do I do? Let me see if I can turn get naked into an acronym. Get was just too many letters, so I call it 5 SEAL secrets. So naked is the secret to, so it's 5 secrets to help you think like a Navy SEAL. And basically this was just what I looked back on my time in the SEAL teams, and what got me what helped me be successful there surely can be the same thing that can help me be successful now.
Mhm.
And so I just took the word naked and I turned it into, the N now stands for never quit, the A is accept failure, the K is to kill mediocrity, the E is expose your fears, and D is do the work. And I created a whole, like, this is a presentation I give from stage. And I created basically it's just a PDF that lists, like, what does that mean to never quit? And here's some tools for you to, like, when you feel overwhelmed and you don't want to keep going, just create small victories. Small victories was something I learned in SEER school. Like when they made you prisoners of war. They taught you how to survive, evade the enemy, and then resist interrogation. And then you try to escape. But anytime that you created a little win, like maybe you were being interrogated and you needed to tell them some information so they would stop beating you. You told like some truth, but you also changed it to have maybe a little white lie.
Mhm.
And so you resisted you didn't comply completely. So that was a small victory. So the basically what a small victory is just controlling the environment. So you had a small victory last night. You were able to roll. You just like shoved your arm in a sling and said, I'm not gonna use my arms, and it's all legs. Let's go. But
Yeah,
that was a small victory for you. Like,
yeah,
you aren't getting the full benefit, but you are actually getting full benefit because you're working scenarios that you wouldn't normally work if you were completely healthy.
yeah. And like we
So it's
talked
just like taking back control when you're completely out of control.
Yeah, and I think what you said yesterday, we talked about being hard to kill, and I remember talking to you, and you pointed it's mentally that made me feel so much better. Like if
Yeah.
I'm not, you might get this as well, being a surfer. There's saltwater therapy, and when I'm injured and I can't surf, or when I can't roll in jiu-jitsu, or I can't do something, my wife's like, just go sit in the ocean because you're getting crabby, and it really is my mental outlet is surfing and
Yeah.
fighting. And then when you get injured and they take both of those away, I'm an unpleasant person. So
Yeah.
um, my question to you is, when you got out and you realized, you didn't have the team, you didn't have all this stuff, and you were using alcohol and I don't know what else, but did you have a mentor? Was there somebody that you went to and that somebody that helped you realize all the five secret seal or seals, the secrets? What is it? Five seal secrets?
Five seal secrets. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there somebody that helped you navigate that, or is that something that you took all your years of training or all your years experience as a SEAL? Is that something you just implemented, or was there a mentor that you had to walk you through that?
I think a lot of it I just implemented, but I said I felt like I lost my team, and I did.
Yeah.
But what I started doing is I started reaching out to other people. Like I had no social media presence, and as I was getting out, like you couldn't find me on if you Googled me, you couldn't find me. Now
Right.
you can find me. I'm out there quite a bit more.
Yeah.
But the I started reaching out to a buddy of mine who was in my first SEAL platoon gave me my first bottle of CBD, and I
Nice.
started following him, and I started thinking like I need to get my act together. And then I was introduced to other people along the way. I read some books, watched the videos of other people just talking about doing awesome stuff, and then hired a coach, and I hired another coach, and so what I call that is like building my new SEAL team. Like
Mhm.
sometimes you have to pay to play. You have to pay to have the people around you that are going to hold you accountable to guide you along and things like that. So it was a combination of like figuring it out myself, but also seeking out help. There was no one like directly in my life helping me like that I trusted to navigate this. It was like small bits and pieces from different people that I sought out.
Okay. Yeah, I find that with masterminds for me is like I'm always just, being an entrepreneur, I put my head down and I try to solve problems. About 3 or 4 years ago, I started getting into masterminds, and it blew me away that people were there willingly to add value, to help me, to expedite like they've already been through it, right? Guys, like we talked a little bit about Mark Evans yesterday, he's been doing it for 26 years. Why not ask or get advice from somebody who's already been at that level? So that's what I kind of reached out. I was like, man, I'm not where I'm at, business wise and financially. I want to do this. And so I joined masterminds, and that's where I found a lot of my mentors and people that I, could
Yeah.
ask questions to and kind of help me along the way. So
But you had to pay to get there. You had to pay to
I did.
pay for proximity.
And I used to think that was the knock, like, oh, a guru, he wants the money, and it devalues him in my head. That's what I thought. But then
Yep.
now that I'm doing coaching, I'm doing this, it's like, well, it adds, if you don't charge for something, it's like you give me something for free, I'm like, haha, I just feel like I got away with something. But if I pay
Yep.
for it, I'm like, "Oh shit, I paid for this. I'm gonna pay a lot more attention." And like when you said something about the mentality part of the SEAL training, I was like, "Fuck, I didn't even think about that. I'd suck at math. I'd probably physical stuff. Throw me in there. I'll excel. I love it. I just love the grind. I didn't even think about the mental aspect, but so
I
yeah,
wasn't prepared for that either.
yeah.
I
I
was
don't
not a
know.
great student in high school.
Yeah, hold me underwater as long as you want, but don't tell me what three times, four times, all this other crap. I'd like,
Yeah.
I'm out. Beat me up more. Um,
Dive physics, dive medicine. Yeah, all that.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think once, I mean, somewhere one of my mentors said, every great person, whether it's Michael Jordan or this, they all have coaches. They have a nutritionist, they have a strength and conditioning, or let's say fighters. They have a jujitsu guy, they have a stand-up guy, they have, and
Yep.
I'm, why have I never thought about it that way? I've always thought, oh, if you've got to, ask for help, you're weak or this and that. And I was like, damn it. I started finally opening that door where it's not a knock on me. It's not meaning I'm weak. It's not meaning that I'm helpless. It's just reaching out to for an olive branch, and there's people out there with the experience, the knowledge that I don't have yet, and willing to, offer it to me. Yeah, for a price, it's fine. I don't mind paying for it because it's value that I don't have. So yeah, I think coaching, masterminds, anywhere where you can get somebody has something you want, pay for it to get that advice. Is I have 5, 10 years ago, I'd be like, what a jackass! You're gonna pay a guy
That's
to.
stupid. Why would you do that? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that's part of my ego, that's part of my, "Oh, I'm big man, I know everything, I can do it all," and it really took time to take that peel off all that bullshit and say, "You know what? I'm not the best at this, I'm not the best at that, but you know what? I have access to guys who are the best at that. Why not utilize that? So, I mean, it's taken a while to get to that point, but
Oh, yeah, and I had a even though we hired coaches in the SEAL teams, we
hmm
hired shooting instructors to come and teach us how to shoot better.
hmm
They're not going to tell us how to clear a house, but if I can be 0.01% faster on my draw
yeah,
or on my follow up or whatever, awesome. If I can be a little bit more accurate, awesome. When I was teaching sniper school, we would go to these other long range shooters, civilian shooters, and have them teach us new ways to do stuff, so
hmm
that I could go back and teach that to the students, so that we could just have a higher quality product. There was a one deployment that we did. The team that was deployed to Baghdad, they were like, we're doing a lot of climbing buildings right now. We're like making stuff up, and here's all the equipment that we're using. The stuff we're like, guys are just getting on the internet and googling something, and like, okay, well, and we're buying it and trying it in actual combat. So if you can go and um, find someone to teach you how to climb buildings and what gear you need and what's the right thing to do, like go do that. So we got that sort of mid deployment after action report, and then we went out and found like some of the best climbers in the world to teach us how to climb, and then we took the techniques and the equipment that they taught us and we applied our TTPs to that so we could go do the things. But I had to go through all of those sort of thoughts and process all of that. So, like you don't know everything. Even those highly trained organizations in the world, they still bring experts in to help them get better at the things that they're not as good at.
yeah. And I always kind of get whatever imposter syndrome or whatever,
Syndrome. Yeah.
where people are like, "Yeah, teach me how to do this." I'm like, "Why me?" Like, and I'm like, "Oh shit, I've been doing this for 20 plus years. I might know a little bit of something," but I'm
Right.
always
Yeah.
feeling like people don't want to hear my story. They don't want to because I kind of knock myself. I'm like, I don't have the great past or this and that, but so I'm always feeling like I'm not qualified to do this. Like when I wrote that book, Hard to Kill, the guy who helped me write it was like, "Whoa!" And he's like flipping out at some of my stories. I'm like, that was just like a Tuesday for me. I didn't think it was that big a deal. He's like, "No, that's a whole chapter." And
Exactly.
okay, cool. So I'm glad that that's coming out for me as well as like and having people on like
Yeah.
you on the podcast in my group. It helps me as well. So I wherever I can get value from people and groups and masterminds and anybody, I'm just taking value where I can get it. So yeah, it's great. Well, let's roll that into your performance leadership coaching program. What's that about?
Yeah. So I like doing one-on-one coaching. I will do group coaching, and I have, but I really like one-on-one coaching because I can really dig down and see really what number one, I establish trust.
Mhm.
That's like the most important thing. And then once I have your trust, you'll like oftentimes many of my clients share things with me that they don't even share with their significant other.
Yeah,
And I help them navigate through some of that stuff. And that's but you have to have someone that you trust to do that with. Sometimes it just turns into like a somewhat of a counseling session, even where I'm like, dude, I should have like a degree in psychology or something as I go down this. But it's like, but I also, I have a lot of stuff
yeah,
in my past that I've had to like navigate and move through. And one of the things I talk about is gratitude. Is about a year ago I started writing down like 5 things that I'm grateful for every day. 4 of those things are things like family and health and whatever. And one of those things is something that has caused me extreme anguish and anxiety and stress and pain and whatever. And when I started to be grateful for the hardships in my life, I was able to navigate them better. And I'm also able to like take my own experiences and sort of parlay that over to, many of my coaching clients. Like this is I'm not saying this because this is like the textbook thing to do. I'm saying this because this is what has worked for me in the past or with, another client or whatever. So I think we should be grateful for the hardships in our life because those are the things that make us stronger and harder to kill, really, at the end of the day.
yeah. I find it too as like as far as fighting goes, when you become a coach or a teacher or something. Like even when I was telling you about masterminds, I'm like, holy shit, that sounded so good. But I'm like, it's because now I'm reiterating what I've been taught, right? What people tell me. And so I think when I don't even know how to put it, but like when you become a coach, you become so much more in depth in what you're teaching. Like when I'm teaching
Yeah.
jujitsu, I'm like, sometimes I did it last night in a kids class. I'm like, well, you're not doing the triangle right. Like, just, and I get down. I'm like, just do it this way. And that's, once you really dissect it and get into it, then I even learn it more. I'm like, well, shit, this is like step
Yeah.
one, two, step three, as opposed to just like and mauling somebody and getting them in a triangle. So yeah, you know, I think it's great. We
I learned that lesson when I was teaching sniper school. When I went from like I thought I was a pretty hot sniper in the platoons. And I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, I'm good to go. And they're like, hey, you want to teach sniper school? I'm like, yeah, sure. And then I show up and I realize I don't know anything.
Yeah,
I'm like, I know nothing. And so I had to like really get in there and learn all the nuance of everything, because when you're standing in front of a group of like 20 plus alpha dudes that are going to call you out if you say the wrong thing, you
yeah,
better have it all together. And so I wanted to make sure that I could answer, 20 questions from 20 different guys, and put all of that information out there up front so that I wasn't getting asked on the backside. Can
yeah.
you explain this better or differently or whatever? And I was prepared to do that. But
That's
it's,
how
yeah,
I.
when you go from like student to teacher, that's like it's a completely different ball game.
Yeah, I over prepare for everything. I did a lot of speeches, and I'm like just covering my bases. It might go this way, it might go that way. Like I did a fight seminar, and I made booklets. I was so stressed out about it, and I'm like, after the first day, I was like, wow, that went really well. That went too well. But I just like to cover every basis and like just make sure I'm 100% on that, because I've seen the other end of that where people are like, okay, we're gonna learn this, and I'm like, I don't even think he knows what the hell he's teaching. Like, what is this guy?
Right. Yeah.
I never
Yes.
want to be that guy. I never want to be that guy.
Never.
Um,
Never.
we talked a little bit yesterday too, is about the man-made tribe, like taking. I don't know if it's a certain age group, or but taking men and making them become hard to kill. Tell us about a little bit about those projects.
Yeah, so we want men to be hard to kill. We want men to be men again, because I think we're really missing that in society. If you turn on anything, the media, social media, whatever, like alpha, uh, what is it? Toxic masculinity, puberty blockers, all this other shit that's going on out there, like trying to devalue men.
Mhm.
And it's interesting that I've have a lot of girlfriend is not the right word, friends that are girls,
Yeah.
and they're like high performing women. They're like, and they're like, it's really hard to find a man that is an alpha that can take care of me. Like, I don't need him to take care of me like financially, but I need to like, I want like a fucking man. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's we're working on that over here.
Yeah.
Stand by. It's tough, but we want to go out and do really hard things, like some epic adventures. Climbing the Grand Teton, climbing, doing maybe do some adventure races. All things that I don't really like doing. I don't like running. I don't like doing any of that stuff. But you know what? It's gets me out of my comfort zone, because it's easy for any of us to get stuck in our comfort zone. Go
Yeah.
do something that's completely outside your comfort zone and prepare for it. Just like a challenge, a 6 week, a 8 week challenge, something like that, and have a marathon on the backside of it. Just say in 6 weeks, I'm going to go run a marathon, or in 6 weeks, I'm going to go do an MMA fight, or whatever it is, and just like put it on the calendar and go do that completely outside your comfort zone, but just go do it anyway. So what if you get your ass kicked? That's just part of the it's the process
Yeah.
of getting there. And then turning your, again, just going back to being a man, like how to take care of
Yeah.
the women in your life, take care of the people who are weaker in your life. That's your role as a man,
Yeah.
provider, protector, all of that good stuff. And so that's really what we're trying to do over at Man Made.
What do you find the group? How do they feel after they do that? I mean, I can have an idea, but I want to hear from you. Like, what are their thoughts?
It's it, like some our events are kind of pricey. So for example, this the Grand Canyon rim to rim to rim that we just did. So we hiked across the Grand Canyon and back in 25 and a half hours. And there were guys that did it with us that were Ironman triathletes. Like, they are studs.
Mhm.
And coming out of that canyon, and I shared a little bit of it yesterday. I'm like, that was top 5 hardest things I've ever done in my life. Like, coming out of that canyon, we kind of did a debrief, And they were like, they were like, dude, there's no way. Fuck that canyon. I'm never going back to that. That place scared me. Like it took them to another level that they've not been really anywhere in their life.
Yeah.
Even though they do really, really hard physical events. And and so, one of the things that I need to find some better language for this, but when I'm talking to them and like trying to sell them on the experience or the event or whatever, and I'm like, so we're going to go do this really hard thing. It's going to break you down physically, mentally, and emotionally. And then we'll come back and we'll like do an after action. And like, how can you use the lessons that you learned on this really hard thing and apply that to your regular life? And then we're just kind of pour into one another. And I'm like, that's too sort of touchy feely. But I asked guys at this last event, I was like, so how do I say this differently? And they're like, you just have to say, you trust me, you'll find out. You'll understand when you do it.
Yeah.
And unless you've gone through some really hard things that like really truly break you down, like you break down physically first, which is why we all need to work out and be really strong.
Mhm.
That will carry us through the kind of emotional piece of it. Actually, you know what? The guy that wrote The Comfort Crisis, I forgot his name. He's got a good name. It should be easy to remember. Uh, he came out and talked to us, and he said something that was we paid him to come out and speak to the group, because he does sort of these Masogi challenges, and one of the things he said was that fatigue is an emotion. Fatigue is nothing more than the same emotion that you feel when you feel love, when you feel happiness, when you feel sadness, when you feel anger. It's just an emotion. It's there to tell you that you're tired, but do you listen to it or not? Do you stop going just because you get tired, just because you feel fatigued? No, you just fucking keep going until you finish whatever the thing is that you're doing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
most people quit when they start feeling they get that emotion of fatigue. Not
Yeah.
even the physicalness of it. Yes, the physicalness, but when you feel that emotion, and I was feeling a lot of emotion that last 9 miles out of the canyon. I was feeling sorry for myself. I was for sure in not a good place for like 4 of the 5.5 hours that it took me to come out of that canyon. And it wasn't until like it was dark and I stopped looking at the top of the mountain or where I couldn't even see the top of it. I could just see headlamps. I'm like, how will I ever get there?
Yeah.
And then I finally hit like the snow line, which was at 6,000 feet up. And I just like had a headlamp on. My headlamp was going, running out of batteries. So the circle was very small. And I just looked at the ground and I had a cap with a visor on. So I couldn't look up. So I just like looked at that circle on the ground and I was like, just make it to one more step, one more step. And so this is like an example of small victories. I just looked at, and because I stopped looking up and being overwhelmed by how much further I had to go, I just looked at the ground and baby step, baby step, baby step, baby step, baby step, baby step. I caught, there were 10 guys in front of me. I caught 6 of them
Yeah. Well, that's what
when
I
I
tell.
stopped like being overwhelmed by my own thoughts. I just looked at the ground and just one step, one more step.
Yeah, I tell people, how do you, well, I didn't make it up, but how do you eat an elephant?
Yeah.
One bite at a time.
Yeah.
Because I did a post yesterday about, and you commented it, like being scared shitless, getting prepped for a fight, hearing the thumping and the skull getting cracked, and I'm like, shit, I was scared, I was this, I was that, but I was committed. I mean, that's what I signed up to do. I was,
Yeah.
and for me, mentally, like I've always said, like I can do the physical part. I've been, in the gym, I've been doing this, I've been fighting. Give me any kind of physical thing and I'll thrive, or I hope I'll thrive. Mental part of it, like the jiu-jitsu tournaments I do, I'm a nervous wreck. My wife's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm just like freaking flipping out. Like, will I snap my leg? Will I break this? Will I break that? The mental strength is what I'm still always working on. Almost 50 years
Right.
old. I'm still trying to battle the mental, to match my mental strength to my physical strength. And I think that's like you said, just looking down and just one step at a time, one this, one that, one thing, and control the controllables and get there however you have to get there, but just break it down. Whatever mental game, and I'm still working on it, whatever mental
Yeah.
warfare you have to
100%.
go in your head, do it. And you'll always, there's not one time, even though in that one story I just told you yesterday, I broke my leg and I got pulled on a stretcher. I didn't go in there going, shit, I shouldn't have done that. Like, it's just, hey, it was an achievement. Like you were talking about earlier, doing little small challenges. I'm in a group and they're always doing random challenges. And I said, what's your next one? And what was it? 1,000 push-ups in 90 minutes. I was like, I'm sitting there watching a UFC fight going, oh, sure, I'll do that tomorrow. Man, I was beat up. I'm like, "How are these guys doing it in 90 minutes?" It took me 2 different sessions, but it's like most people and, like, to the people that you're having in your groups and the people that I talk to, they don't accept those challenges. They go the easy route. "Oh, it's easier just to sit on my ass and do nothing and watch people do badass shit than get up and do it. Let me just keep scrolling through Instagram and doing this stuff."
Right.
So,
And live, and then eventually you're like, your life has passed you and you have like all these regrets. Like, I shoulda, I coulda,
yeah.
shoulda, woulda.
Yeah, and I think that's huge with the like you were saying, like, with your friends that are girls, they need the men who are out there who are capable of having a strong woman and, independent, and it's just we are as in a society right now, man, if you put on that social media, you're gonna see 1,000 different things that are not making people hard to kill. So I think your
Yeah.
message, my message, a lot of people that we know and follow the messages is get out there and be hard to kill. Whether I won't take it over, but what's your one message that you? We can do this all day. I gotta keep sectioning things apart because I don't want to take you too long. But what would be your message to people? To kind of wrap this up. What would be your one message you want to relay to people?
I'd say go out there and do things that scare you.
Yeah,
Like the E in naked is expose your fears. Go do the things that scare you. Sometimes that's, doing um just getting on the phone and calling someone. Sometimes it's like maybe you were beat up as a kid. You had have low self-esteem. Go take a Brazilian jiu-jitsu class for a year. You're gonna learn some skills. You're gonna learn self-defense. Your self-esteem will go up. Um just do hard things and do things that scare you. The harder, the better.
yeah.
And see what you're truly capable of because it's more than what you think you're capable of doing.
I 100% agree. Instead of hard to kill, go out and do hard shit. That's the next. That's the next book. Go do hard shit because I've never met anybody who says, wow, I did that, or I ran a marathon, or I tried surfing for the first time. And they walk out and go, man, that sucks. They might think it sucks. They got beaten up in a wave or something, but they're glad they did it. The
Yeah.
raw motion of achieving and getting off their ass to do it is the small battles, right? We talked about it earlier. Win
Yep.
little battles that you can. So I appreciate it. How could people reach out to you if they want to connect you, follow you, anything, email you? How do you want people to reach out to you?
I'd say go to fivesealsecrets.com, put your information in there. And if you want to talk about coaching or speaking or anything like that, just reply to the email. So you'll get, the 5 Seal secrets from me. And the email that you get it from, maybe check your spam folder because sometimes my emails do go in spam. But just reply to that email. It's a great way to get a hold of me, or you can find me. I'm on all the socials, but I'm most active on Instagram. So I think it's william.r.branum on Instagram. I'm pretty easy to Google because I've been on a few shows. So if
Mhm.
you Google my name, it's pretty easy to find.
Yeah,
And then, but yeah, or if you're interested in CBD, nw-recovery.com.
perfect.
I know you're not supposed to give more than one way to get a hold of me, but I
I'm in
don't
the new
I don't
age.
follow the rules.
Just throw it all out there. Like if you can go on like how to market yourself. Well, and there's 1,000. Just say what
Right.
you want to say and get the message out there. However you want to get out, people will find you, right?
Yep, exactly.
Well, my man, I really appreciate you coming on. We just met yesterday, and I feel like I could do this all day long with you. But maybe soon we can get out in the water and chop it up out in the lineup one day. But
Yeah, let's do it. Sounds like
again,
a plan.
thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it, and reach out to him if you guys want more information on him. And I appreciate it. Thank you, brother.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Yep.